Aeneid, Book 1, lines 1 through 11. This will be the passage that we will practice on in class. Passage is designed that each section group will have a certain number of lines to cover. And here, of course, is the English, which you'll be able to read if you'd like. English translations of Virgil or Caesar are very easy. So let's dive into the passage. Now, this is an interlinear passage. This means that the editors in 1827 changed around the words so it would make better English sense. This is so you can get a good scope of the passage and to understand what's really going on. So let's start with the verb always, kano. I sing. This is Virgil speaking in his proem of the Aeneid. This is the beginning introduction. I sing the object phrase, arms, and the man. Notice the man is not mentioned here. We know it's Aeneas, and the title notes Aeneid. But remember, this is a nationalistic epic. It's not an epic of just Aeneas, who's proving to be a kind of a wimpy hero, but it's a nationalistic epic of Rome, who first, having been driven or having fled by what? Big key word in the Aeneid, fate, from the shores of Troy, came to Italy. Notice you don't use a limit phrase. It's a limit phrase. In poetry, you don't have to use it. And it came to Italy and the Lavinian or Latium shores. That man, having been tossed much. Now, they say est here to make it a participle, to make it a periphrastic, but it probably, you could do that. But, we could say was tossed much. The neuter accusative of an adjective can be used adverbially in poetry. Can be used much, et, both ablative place phrase, on the lands and on the deep. The deep is used for metonymy for the sea. By, ablative of cause. It's like a means phrase, but a passive verb. Aeneas is very passive here. By the force of the superior one, superiorum. This is a shortened version of the genitive. On account of the memory, right? What kind of memory? Angry memory of whom? Savage Juno. Virgil plays around with it a bit more in the text, and we'll talk about that in class. Many things, neuter plural, having suffered, right? Or he suffered, you could add an est. Est is often not used in poetry because of meter. He suffered many things also too. Et could be and, but it could also be to, in war. Dum clause, while, subjunctive used, he was in imperfect subjunctive while he was founding the city and while he was bringing in the gods' dative to Latium. Sometimes you can use the dative in poetry as well for limit phrase. From whence is understood the invisible est, the Roman race, the fathers of Alban, which is Alba Longa, one of the original precursor cities to Rome, and the walls of high Rome. Notice not the lofty walls of Rome, but the walls of high Rome. This is a nationalistic epic. It doesn't talk at all about Aeneas, as you would see in the Odyssey or the Odyssey or the Iliad, talking about Odysseus or Achilles directly. But this talks about Rome. That's why there's no mention of Aeneas to make the Romans feel powerful. Here we go. We could, as in the inflation, we're invocating the muse of memory or epic muse. Rehearse, bring to mind to me the causes, reasons, by what numine is godhood, by what wounded godhood or suffering what did and here you have the actual active, the queen deum, shortened form of deorum for poetry, queen of the gods, impelled. This is indirect question clause. This is why that's a perfect subjunctive. A object phrase, a man noted by his piety. So it's a complement clause because this is an accusative subject of the infinitive. To roll or be involved in tot causus, so many downfalls, not causes, but causus, downfalls. Also caused him to roll up, to encounter so many labors. Of what anger? And this is kind of like a statement. Are such angers to dative celestial spirits? So in this passage right here, we start with the Aeneid. We start with some basic concepts of poetry, maddening at first, but they make sense after a while. And you're dealing with the Aeneid, and you're not mentioning Aeneas. All we're mentioning Aeneas is what? Passively suffering such things, passively doing such things, while we have the antagonist of the Aeneid, the queen of the gods, Juno, who will be the cause and the rationale of all these problems. All right, so in your passage, I only want you to circle words that go together. Adjectives are the big thing in Virgil. And also to write down whatever words you don't know immediately. This is not a word for word translation. I will expect highlighting of verbs so we know where the clause is. I will expect also any note you need. If you don't know that Numene is the godhood, which you probably wouldn't, you need to put that little note in the little short area. The real key is not reading out the translation, but understanding and commenting. I will expect a question written at the base of every page, a question you have, and we'll be getting points on questions because this is the key. We're not just translating the Latin. We're not just understanding the grammar, but we're actually now going to do literary analysis. And therefore, I need you to be understanding how the text is working. That's why it's a disposable text. All right, so that takes care of everything we need to cover in the Aeneid. And these lines and these passages will be given to you for what you need. All right, so I'm excited, and let's begin.